Welcome to the Blackburn End Podcast. We're back after our week off, and it should be a bumper one today as Rovers are resurrected. It's points galore as the Easter Bunny has been kind to us. So let's get into those headlines. Seawood Park is treated to a Good Friday goal fest as promotion rivals Millwall are swatted away. And it's all sweetness at the Stadium of Light as Rovers travel and snatch their 3 points against Sunderland. Rovers return to Ewood, and just when we thought Rovers were going to do the most Rovers thing ever, we bounce back and we win 2-1 against Watford. And after these wins and after some results going our way, Rovers are now back in with a shout of the playoffs as we go to Sheffield United, just 1 point off the playoffs. Mark, we need to have a holiday more often, don't we?
Mate, I have been trying my very best since the game finished at weekend to calm myself down, don't get giddy. This is Rovers. It's gone. I am all in on the promotion train. Certainly the playoff train, anyway. I'm on that one. I am in.
I just can't believe we are where we are. I mean, this has been such a roller coaster of emotions, especially since, January. Let's just take this year into consideration. We was having podcast based on the fact that, we wanted new owners. What are they doing? Waggett needs to leave. Sir Hale is being called from pillar to post. And now we're all back on top and talking about one being 1 point off from, the playoffs. It's just been a roller coaster.
It's been, I think the beginning of the season and going it up until probably December, we were just really proud of the team, weren't we? It wasn't the most free-flowing of football, but we thought, do you know what? We're going to turn up every single week, see a team that gives everything. If they lose, it's not for a lack of trying or preparation. And we were okay with that, and we were overachieving. So, we weren't happy with everything still that was going on behind the scenes, but we were kind of okay with that. And then January tumbled, didn't it, into, obviously, results started in December. Results started to tumble in January. Injuries, where are the signings, all that kind of stuff rumbles on. Then Eustace leaves. And then we galvanise a little bit under the stewardship of Law, and I think Travis got everyone together. Ishmael comes in. We're still in the playoffs by some miracle. And then we fall like a stone and everything looks more disconnected than I've ever seen it. But something has clicked, hasn't it? Whatever was said, done, happened, half-time against Sheffield Wednesday, it's the biggest turnaround I've ever seen. It really is.
Well, we said in the last podcast, maybe they are right and Ishmael is the man and, Rudy's going to get his, wave his magic wand and add some players in into the squad. But I mean, it's just come out of nowhere, this run of games. And let's start with that Millwall one. We go into it, we're still feeling quite flat about previous results and where we are and the ownership and everything. And then we go and win 4-1. So let's just play the initial reaction after this game.
Well, Mike, this feels a bit better, doesn't it? I thought the defence looked a lot more solid, but what a difference Callum Britton makes, can get us up the pitch. Means that the midfield, the defence attack don't look as isolated. I thought the front four worked really well at pressing. That's obviously the game he wants to play, winning the ball nice and high up the pitch, and it worked to a treat, really, didn't it? What a cracking finish from Sonny for the last one, but his first one, massive deflection, but it's nice to see people shooting from the edge of the box. Far too often this season we've been shy there. At one point, Mike, I was looking at the scores and I thought, oh my God, we could be winning with a shout. We're not. That's game over, but I can see where we're going with it. Things looking up.
Where the hell did that come from? What a win. What a win. Great stuff. Callum Britton. Well, Real Madrid was talking about having Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I'll tell you what, they're going to be looking at Callum Britton at this rate. Yeah, but, 40 million and you can have him, maybe 50. Great stuff. Great win. Great to move on. Hopefully we can get some more results like this before the end of the season and finish on a positive note. Yeah, it's strange listening back to us there because, you said, it's not going to happen and, I'm there saying, it's just nice to get a couple of results. Without knowing what was going to happen, it just seemed like an isolated game. One of these games where everything just seemed to go right. We was playing a pretty good team at the time, and they had their aspirations to move up the league. Yeah. And I just don't know really what happened, but I mean, it was that second half really. The first half, to get the goal and then be pinned back straight away, I was like, oh, this is just Rovers being Rovers. But that second half, they just came out and just turned the screw, and it was a joy to behold.
Yeah, I don't think you can underestimate the difference Callum Britton made, but coming back into the team. I think Travis and Tronstad have looked so out of sorts since they came back from injury, and they've just started to play themselves into some form of fitness. He's kept with the nucleus of the same team, and he kind of got it. But it felt like a bonus game, in terms of result and performance. But I came away kind of thinking, there was a spell where the goals are flying in. You're thinking, this is not bad. You check the scores, and at the time, I think we were still 6-7 points off. So it just felt like the pressure's off. It was one of them performances that you get sometimes. Remember Birmingham away when we won 4-1 last game of the season? It felt almost like that you thought, yeah, these games can happen towards the end of a season when there's not much to play for. But I kind of saw the first knockings of, I can see what he's trying to do, if I'm being honest. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one because after that Luton game, we were saying, our lads are on the beach, they're not really trying, we got a result, but it wasn't really the kind of performance we were looking for. It was quite lazy. And then we're going to have this one where they did seem to kick into gear, and maybe they did feel a little bit more relaxed. Maybe they thought the pressure was off. It's the season's kind of gone. It was petering out to being nothing. So why not go out there and impress the manager? Dolan, who we now know has hit some really good form. Someone like him that can, earn a contract with us or with someone else. He was playing his heart out. Cantwell's found himself some form. But yeah, they just seemed to be playing with quite a bit of freedom. And it was like that second half. The manager told them at half time, just go out there and play. Do what we ask, relax and do what you need to do. And it just turned out well, because it's not as if I felt like Millwall were playing particularly bad. I just felt like everything was clicking for us.
Yeah, I really do think the energy of Britain was the catalyst for it, because it gave us that option to get up the pitch quickly, which we've not really had. I think Dolan's confidence and his willingness to stretch the game. Cantwell obviously can pick a pass, we know that. But then Tronstad and Travis were doing what they haven't done for a long time, which is breaking that play up and picking the right pass quickly. But we were going down that right-hand side, and when I say I can see what Ishmael's trying to do, we were winning the ball really high. So it wasn't mad individual pressing, and it wasn't actually like a Klopp gegenpress, where everybody's just running after the ball. It was quite controlled, but it was very deliberate. So they were trying to win the ball in real key areas, and they were doing it. And then when we did, we were just absolutely ruthless, weren't we? It was unbelievable in terms of how our conversions of, Tronstad's strike, for example, was just one that we haven't seen any signs of that at all from him. So yeah, I was positive. I thought, well, this is in his mind, 5, 6, 7 players in terms of the squad that he wants to ship out and change. So yeah, it started to make me go, all right, yeah, I can kind of see where we're going with it. But it also made me realise how important people like Callum Britton and Terry Dolan are, if you're going to play that way.
Yeah, Callum Britton's been one that we've been singing his praises now since we started this podcast. He's been a player that we've said has been massively important to this team. He was someone that can get us forward, but he can defend. I think it's nice then that Cantwell is showing what he can do. But I think the important person really is Ohashi in this kind of role. Gay, he was a little bit, chicken, headless chicken, a little, with some of his pressing. And then to now have Ohashi doing it, I think he does it in a little bit more of an intelligent manner. And like we said, we know what Dolan's going to give you, but also Hedges. Hedges had quite a good game.
Yeah, he did.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised myself that he's playing as well as he is after the season that he's had. So it did seem like a game that was quite free and relaxed with the players. And like you said, that they were playing the way that Ishmael, like you said, he apparently likes to have young, fit, fast, strong players. And we was playing into that. Obviously, we want to move on to other games. So I'll ask you your favourite 3-word reactions. But when I some of the fan reactions, everyone was very similar to us. There was a lot of people just saying, "Well, it's just this end of season game where it means nothing to both teams because they're probably both out the playoff push, and we obviously know what happens next." But yeah, it did seem like a performance that we could just all come away from and just be happy that we got a nice result, a few goals to see, and we could move on. But was there any 3-word reactions that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, looking back now, they're even more pertinent, really. So, Toth over pairs was a big talking point at the time. That almost seems like it's not a talking point right now. I know we will go on to that, but then it's Great Britain. Tronstad is 2 guy. Love that from Saunders. But then just quite a lot of things like, where has this been? What could have been? Before anyone says, I know where has this been, is 4. It actually says, where's this been?
Yeah, we'll let people have some grammar issues when we do these things. So obviously we move on to the Sunderland game, and we're all buzzing. We're all buzzing off the Millwall one. I was expecting us to go into this game and not really get much out of it. I know Sunderland haven't exactly been firing on all cylinders and not exactly been a team that, ripping it up in the league at the moment. But they still are where they are. They're still playing, with good players. What was you expecting out of this game when you was going into it?
So I'd spoken to a Sunderland fan on the eve of the game, and he'd said they were going to make quite a few changes, and a few players that were fringe, haven't played much, were going to play. So that can go 2 ways, can't it? They can be desperate to impress and get a place in their team for the playoffs, or they can look like they've not played football for a while. And it felt like that. I thought it was very similar to the Luton game. We were quite controlled in it, but we were giving the ball away very easily. It lost the intensity to some extent. But then when we scored, what I did see was this real adaptation to what the game became. And that's what we saw under Eustace. That's what we saw all season, is that we are able to do 2 or 3 different game plans within a game and do them really well. And I actually, for the first time in a long, long time, at 1-0, felt very comfortable. I felt like we were shutting the game down again. And I thought, oh, it's still in them. It is still in them. And obviously, it's difficult to take yourself back to the time. But now I'm looking at it. That's where I'm looking at Sunderland and thinking, I had them after the game at Ewood as one of the playoff contenders. They played for 20 minutes or so at Ewood, didn't they, either side of half-time, and we couldn't get anywhere near them. And I thought, if they can make that a longer period of time, they're going to fly through the playoffs if they end up in them. But I'll be honest, looking back at it now, I think they're going to struggle in the playoffs because you can't just turn it on and off like a tap. And I just thought
let's go back to how before we get into the meat of it, let's go back to how we did actually react at the time, because it's an interesting one, because you can see our emotions changing a little bit after the Millwall game and then into this one. So let's just quickly play that match reaction.
What on earth is going on? We are still in with a chance of the playoffs. I mean, it's some sort of mathematical miracle. But actually, then you treat yourself, start looking into the fixtures, you start looking at who you're playing, who they're playing. I mean, by the time we record the next pod, it might be done and dusted. Probably will be. But you're now starting to go back into the realms of, well, what if? I think, for me, looking at the games, pleased with Toth. I think Dawn's done quite well again. You're starting to see some of the things that Ishmael clearly wants. You're starting to look at, well, he's got 3 wins in a row. He's got a better record than Eustace when he arrived. There are things to work with for now, things to work with for the future. It doesn't paper over the massive cracks in it with the fan base and the ownership, but actually, managerially, football direction, I can see where they're going with it. I think there is a big overhaul to be had, but maybe not as big as we thought. I think in terms of depth, we're clearly lacking there. But then you look at the people we've got out. I did the preview with Sunderland, and 2 hands, maybe more, you could arguably say, could be starting in terms of players out. So I think we've got to hand it to him as much as we questioned what he was doing early on. I think you've got to hand it to him. I don't know what you think, but I'm very interested to find out.
So, obviously, I'm delighted, mate. Got another win. The lads are just playing their hearts out, performing really well. Toth in goal, well, you know, he's staking his claim to be number 1. I think everyone's starting to see why we got him. And we're starting to see what this team can do. The frustrating thing is why is it taking us to have these dips in form to then drop out of the playoff race, to then come back and have great form and then tease us once again. But it is what it is, mate. Obviously, just delighted that we can start talking positively. You know, next week, bumper pod, we're going to have a lot of positive stuff to talk about. And yeah, I love it, mate. It's really, so when you was talking then, I was thinking, well, just before the podcast, obviously I put these together and I just remembered your match reaction, and it was like the maths weren't mathing, as they say. You know, I was like trying to work it out at the time. I was thinking, because when you sent me that originally and I was listening to it, I was like, surely not. No, the results aren't going to go our way, because they never do. But here we are. But taking us back to then, I was looking at the game and I was like, I just didn't expect anything out of it. I just thought the season was gone. I was looking at the team and I was quite happy with who was playing. Toth's been playing quite well and I was happy that he was getting his start. But then, you know, I look at the starting lineup. Woodrow comes in and okay, he's not exactly an exciting player to bring in, but generally the team had stayed as it was. And we got a similar solid performance. You know, before I stopped you to play in the match reaction there, I think it was 100% right. I think it was a game where Sunderland just didn't seem to turn up, and the ones that did, we stifled, and we just was patient and just got the job done.
Yeah, I think it felt a Eustace performance, is how I would describe it, one that we've seen before in the season, and I felt like I recognised our team again. But going back to looking at the maths of it, that's when I started to get a little bit giddy, because I looked at the fixtures and who teams were playing at that point, and I thought, oh, hold on, actually, this is doable. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's doable. And at that point, I said, if we come out of this weekend's fixtures and we're a point off the playoffs, I made a very bold prediction that would mean we will get into the playoffs. And I'm not 100% on that statement, but I still stand by it a little bit, because of the fact that I just think the way things are going, I think if we were any other team, you'd look at Rovers now and go, the way that they've turned it around, the run they're on, they've got something that every team wants going into the playoffs, and that's momentum. And you could actually say, well, they could well be the favourites here. Because it's my club, I fully expect us to probably win at weekend. They're still not getting the playoffs. But, yeah.
Well, I don't want to stay onto this game for too long, because I really want to get into the actual nuts and bolts of what's happening over the next week. But we'll quickly finish this one and we'll move on to the Watford game. So I thought it was the same players performing as the game before. The key players I've written down were Toth, Dolan, Campbell, Britton, and Tronstad. But the defensive display from Hyam and Bart were very good again. Ribeiro at left back. I just thought it was one of these complete performances. We got the goal, and we were just really solid after that. I was a bit concerned, obviously, when Britton came off as early as he did. But I trust Montgomery to do a job right now, and I was quite impressed, I would say, with how we went about our business.
Yeah, I mean, Britton's had a long time out, hasn't he? And it was the Luton game. You could see him holding the back of his hamstring, and he was signalling like, "I need to come off." He played too long, so I wasn't overly shocked at that. I was more worried actually when he came off with the Luton game because he was holding his hamstring a bit, but it was probably just a bit of cramp and tightness. But yeah, I think I looked at it, and it was, again, I think it's interesting you've highlighted Bath and Hyam there, because I've worried about them a little bit in the way Ishmael's set up, because he's pushed the fullbacks higher and wider. He's pushed them higher, and that's not really their game. I think they come into their own when their backs are against the wall and they're a bit deeper. But they've found a way of it working. And I think that comes down to Travis and Tronstad as well. I think they're working as a four almost together. Travis and Tronstad are now fully fit. They're back in sync with each other. And we are firing because of it. I think the four of them together. Danny Bart's so important to us, though. We have to give him a new contract. I did a little interview with Sunderland before, and they love him, and they're like, "How's he getting on for you?" And I said, his experience is just something we've been crying out for. And I still go back to, I think Hyam's had he's played every minute almost of the season, and he's had a good season. But I think him and Carter are number two centre halves. I think they look better again alongside a Danny Bart or somebody who's a leader. Whether he fits into the way that we're going to play next season, I don't know. But obviously, we'll have to sign somebody better when we're in the Premier League. But as it is for now, we'll do.
I'm not sure Danny Bart's a Premier League footballer just yet, but we might have him next year. So obviously we've had some 3-word reactions, the fan reactions that I was looking at. Very similar to what mine and yours were, where people were just kind of scratching their heads, wondering how the hell this is happening again. And like you rightly said, there's always a team that has the momentum that creeps into the playoffs. And you start to think, why not us? Why can't it be us? We haven't been to Wembley, this new Wembley yet. We haven't had the opportunity. And like you say, by some mathematical miracle and other people shit in the bed, as they say, we seem to be the ones that are getting there. So what were the 3-word reactions that you found particularly pleasing?
The one I picked was FPL Bully. It's the hope. And that summed up my mood at that point, because I'd said a couple of weeks ago, football's all about hope. And I felt like there was no hope at that stage. And that's why I was so down about things. The emotions of football take over you. And you've got to have some hope. Against Sunderland and after the game, I started to get a little bit of hope again. Hope in the season, but hope in moving forward. I still, like I said, massive issues going on that need fixing. But football-wise, I could see a way forward and I could see some hope again.
Yeah, we moved into the Watford game and we were messaging each other, and you messaged me because obviously results went our way earlier in the day. And I think I need to find what you'd messaged me, because is this happening? I think you said, is this happening? And I was like, I think it could be. I think it could be. Imagine if it does happen.
Sorry.
No, you carry on.
I was just going to say, I went to the Havelock at Blackburn, the pub, on the big screen in the beer garden, and everybody was watching the Luton game. And it was like, you'd have thought it was a Rovers game. They are on every corner. They're up when Kaminsky's made a save. Somebody goes through. They're appealing for penalties that are never penalties for them. And then full-time whistle went. Massive cheer goes up. And then everyone sets off to the ground. And as everyone's walking to the ground, there was this atmosphere of something's happening. It really felt like something is happening here. And that continued into the stadium. Obviously, the attendance is what the attendance is. But there was a feeling around the ground of something's happening.
Yeah, and that was the vibe, and obviously we then come to our game. It kicks off, and we had a decent half, but we concede in the second. But then we go on to win, and it was a fantastic result for us. But before we get into the nitty gritty, let's play that match reaction. Tell you what, buddy, we should have a break from doing the podcast more often, because when we don't, we seem to win. And yeah, great run of form at the moment. The lads are just absolutely pulling it out of the bag each game. And how the hell are we in with a shot of making the playoffs again this year? Yeah, we need to break this one down. It's going to take us a while to break it down. I make no apologies for the fact that I was disappointed with what had been happening previously. And with the start of Ishmael's reign, but yeah, he's coming to the end of the season and we're in with a shout, and it looks like it's going to be a good solid end to the season for us. I would have taken this at the start of the season to be within a long shot shout of the playoffs come the last day. Oh mate, on my heart, it can't cope with this.
Mikey boy, it is happening. We're going to Sheffield and it's going to happen. I am telling you now, it's the most unorthodox season in the world, the most unorthodox way of getting into the playoffs. I am sold. It's happening. We are the Blackburn boys and we are making all the noise. Just sheer grit and determination today, wasn't it? It wasn't pretty at times, but you always felt like we just had that will to win. We're off to Sheffield. Can we do it? We'll soon find out.
I'm very excited, Mark. There, you definitely enjoyed that one, didn't you?
Oh, do you know what? We were. I think it was just. I think there's a mixture of relief in there that, do you know what, we can think about football again as well. But I maintain something is happening. We went 1-0 down, and you're a bit like, it's falling a bit flat this game, but it didn't. It sparked again, and there was something in us, and you start to think it's just falling our way, and the players look like they believe that. I just think something is happening. I really do.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to think that we was having these negative podcasts not long ago, and it does feel like yesterday we were talking about how it was another wasted season, and we've let John Eustace go, which is an indictment of what's going on, and Talk Sport are talking about us. We're all over the media again about how we're not happy with the owners and stuff, and obviously we're still not, but there's something's gone our way, and we asked for luck, we asked for things to come up, for us, and it is right now. I mean, I'm looking at the score in the Leeds Bristol game, which is happening as we're recording. It's half time, and Leeds are 1-0 up, and you're just thinking, is it our time to actually have an opportunity? And if we did get into the playoffs, let's say this happens and we do get into the playoffs. I was talking to my mate the other day, and I was thinking, I do think we'd be probably one of the most undeserving participants in the playoffs that I can remember, just because to have such a poor run of form and then just have such a good, it seems like our form is on and off. It's never just steady. It's always we're either really, the Gattuso sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. That is us, and it's our form, and it's absolutely crazy that we're here. And for me, the Watford game just showed to me that we have something, because I felt like we was in control for the majority of the game. And there was like that spell where Watford obviously came at us in the second half and got their goal, but I was really patient with it. I think I put on the halftime thing that you put out, so sum up the half with a GIF, and I said that we had to be patient, because I felt like it was coming. And even when they scored, for some reason, I just had this gut feeling that it wasn't over. Now, I didn't think we'd necessarily go on to win, but I just thought that we're going to react to this, and we did react well. And again, it was the same players that we're talking about, with Dolan, Cantwell, Britton, Tronstad, you know, Hashi, I thought had a good game, but they all stepped up, and Cantwell's goal was a lovely goal. It was the kind of goal where he's just like that. That's what we've been expecting from you. Same with Dolan, and I put the tweet out to say this is why we got frustrated with Dolan, because this is what we want from him. Now, I don't expect players to play at a certain an elite level every single game. That's unrealistic. But we were seeing him do some pretty dumb things with the ball. And it seems to have clicked. Now, is that Ishmael? Is that him? I don't know. Is it the fact that he hasn't got a contract and he's now thinking, right, I need to up my game to get this next contract, wherever it is? I don't know. But these are why the reason we had a go at these players, and I'm not, we wasn't proper having a go, but we was picking at them, was because this is what we expect. It's just really nice now that it's coming to fruition, and we're seeing these things, because there were some lovely assists, there were some lovely goals. It was just a really nice thing to say, that the players were performing as we know that they can.
Yeah, I think we've been not harsh on Dolan. I think I like to think we're quite fair, and yeah, we're emotional about it. So we're up, we're down. But if Tyrese Dolan didn't have ability, we'd be okay with sometimes if he's a 7 out of 10. But it's when we think there's more in there, there's more. And the same for Cantwell. And that Cantwell goal, the only way I can really describe it is it was a Premier League goal. So I go and watch Premier League games now and again, and there's things that happen on the pitch, and you just think everybody's done the right thing at the right time. So whether that's the time of their pass, the weight of their pass, their first touch, made the right decision. And I was watching us come forward, and I kept thinking, right, now Dolan, not too many touches, play it there, perfect weight of pass. Same again. Or Hashi, great vision, great decision to make that first time pass. Great execution, and Cantwell probably the only person on our team that could finish it like that. And it was just a Premier League, and this is not because I'm talking about play. It was a Premier League quality goal, and by that I mean every single person made the right decision at the right time and executed it perfectly. And I just felt like there's players playing into form. There are people coming back from injury. There's still others coming back. It just feels like something is building. And as I say that, Leeds have gone 2-0 up. But yes, so, but yeah, sorry. But Ryan Hedges is another example. It's not just that the pressure's off. I've seen people saying, oh, the pressure's off. Yeah, there is an element of that in some aspects. And there's confidence, and confidence is a wonderful thing in football. But he's interchanging. It's gone back to not sort of peak Thomason period, but that time under Thomason when people felt like they could rotate, they knew their roles, and there's a little bit of a swagger as they're going forward again, and a confidence and a willingness to trust each other and interchange a bit. And I think you're right. I think the Ohashi and Gay debate is not one for today, but it's an interesting one because Gay had almost become integral to our team for a spell. And now I couldn't imagine him in this team. He doesn't fit this style of football. He's a plan B striker, so I'm not saying I don't want him in the squad. But Ohashi fits this kind of setup perfectly. Whether he gets enough goals, another day. But yeah, I just think there's no coincidence that we've got our best players back on the pitch, and they're now fully up to speed, of course. And that you can talk then about that goal's been disallowed. What is going on? You can talk about whether we needed more investment in January, whether actually if we'd have had players of this standard coming through the door early January, would we have even had the dip? Of course we can. But just part that, let's focus on what's happening right now. And I think we've got our key important players back at full fitness and back at full confidence. And that is why I'm getting really giddy. That's why I can't stop thinking something's happening, is because they're all falling together at the right time. Cardboard's just coming back. Dennis is coming back. You know, Carter's not a million miles away. Have we got enough depth? Not so sure. Have we got enough quality? I'm not so sure. But what I think we've got is a bit of belief again, and we're flying high on confidence. And that's for other opposition, it's a dangerous combination.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're making me feel silly with the fact that I was worried. You know, that I want them to. When I'm feeling down about the team and the squad and what's going on, I want them to prove me wrong. When I say something positive, prove me right. When I say something negative, prove me wrong. And they're doing exactly that. That's what I want. And I thought that they'd completely given up. I thought that the club had no direction. And right this second, I don't want to be like that guy who says I talk in absolutes, you know. But I am at a point where there is something working right now in our favour. The stars are aligning, and whilst I'm scared of us getting into the playoffs, I'm scared of that success because of what it may look like and what it may do to us. But it'd be nice just to get there. It would be nice just to get there, and we've given ourselves a chance.
Yeah,
we'll get into the connotations and what can actually happen in a second. But after this game, I just came away a bit open mouthed, thinking, I don't understand how we are here based on the last two podcasts we've recorded. The last one was very much along the lines of, well, it was nice to get a result and the lads are on the beach. The one before that was very negative. The one before that was even more negative. And I was just thinking, how the hell are we where we are right now? Because I'm not sure we do deserve it because of how poor we've played at times and how the club's been run. But it's nice to just have this luck. It's nice to have one more season where we just go into that last game of the season where there's actually something to cheer for. And they've sold out the tickets. We was given more tickets, and they've sold out straight away as well. It's going to be a fantastic end of season for us, no matter what happens. And it all came from this game of just fighting to the end. You know, I felt like Watford did offer something. It was a very scrappy game. I mean, there was a hell of a lot of cards. The referee, I mean, he had an absolute spot on referee's haircut. That's the only thing I noticed. But yeah, I felt like it was a very scrappy game. I felt like they could have gone down to 10 men with a couple of second yellow cards, but we just kept at it, and we got the rewards, and we are where we are now.
Yeah, and I think I've gone to look into it a bit deeper because people are now saying, "Oh, look at the fans now; they're all Ishmael's, the new Messiah." So I look back at what he's been saying, and I think, so initially he was appointed, and I said to you at that time when he was West Brom manager, I think he was Watford manager, he was, and he did the interview after, and he was impressive. What I've reacted to is the fact that he's come in. I've not liked the fact that he's not acknowledged the supporters. I found him talking about next season. I didn't like when we were still in the playoffs, and then I've stopped listening with my ears to some extent because interviews are full of PR, and we hear the same thing over and over for 15 years now. So I believe what I see, and I was watching a group of players that looked very disconnected, that didn't really look like they believed in what was going on. But he's talked about injuries, and it feels like an excuse, doesn't it? But I looked into it. So he was losing at 2 players a game, roughly. But actually, if you think about his style, so we played the Norwich game, and we played very similar to how we've played previously under Eustace. We lose a couple of people. We try for the next couple of games to keep playing the same way. Portsmouth away, Beck goes, Carter goes. We've lost Britain by this point. And actually, if you look, we've lost the ability. Cardboard's injured. Dennis is injured. We've lost the ability to get up the pitch on the counter-attack. Even under Eustace, we still had that. Travis and Tronstad, if you remember, against Portsmouth that time, they looked like they'd never played together. So he went back to the 4-2-3-1 to try and keep going with what was working. But actually, we couldn't get up the pitch, and we had Gay up there who looked so isolated. Nobody was around him. Nobody could get near him. And it just looked like it wasn't working. Then he's implemented his style a little bit, but not had the players to do it, to be fair. It is no coincidence that when we've had Barton Hyam, but we've had Britain coming in who's got the legs and the energy to get up the pitch, Travis and Tronstad are fit, Cantwell's come back into some kind of form, but Dolan's been playing. Dolan's been the one constant, I would say. Hedges has started to play in some form, but Ohashi's fit again. And Ohashi's perfect for this role. Then we've started to get people off the bench that, filling that bench who are giving it, Woodrow made a contribution for the first time this season at Sunderland. Came and did a really good job. Montgomery's done the job. Dennis came on and Cogbo at weekend. And, they offered something on the counter. I just think, to be fair to him, I think everything that was going on, we probably reacted a little bit negatively to him, more than we would normally. But he didn't help that situation. But I'm willing to judge people on what I see. And I think we can turn around and say it's the players. And I think Travis, the way he's led the players this season, I know he was absolutely at his Housery best at weekend, but the way he's led the players, and I go back to the West Brom game for this, the way he, I think, has been the real leader in that dressing room has been really good. But then people like Danny Bart's done that. I think we need to be careful now as we go into the summer that it's okay changing it, but you're losing some key people here. And you can't lose all the key characters. If you just take out of that team, Bart, Britton and Dolan, not just ability-wise, but you're losing something big from that team, I think, because they're three characters that have really shone through for various and different reasons this season. So I think we need to be careful as we move into the summer. But I'm willing to give Ishmael a chance. I think he seems to be learning. And I think when you look into it a bit deeper, I kind of understand what he's saying. I don't think he's communicated it well enough. He's almost just flippantly talked about, it's injuries. Talk to us about why. But yeah, I think we have a real chance.
We're trying to justify why we felt like we felt, and I don't think we really need to, do we, as fans? Because we look at the results. So we come off the back. So Eustace leaves, and then we come off the back of a 2-0 away win at West Brom and a 2-0 home win against Plymouth, and we're thinking, okay, well that's good. The new guy's coming in and let's see what he's got. And we didn't have a go straight away. There was a lot of people not excited, but like we said, we wasn't excited about Eustace. And There's been plenty of managers in the past we haven't been excited about. What I am excited about the fact that Leeds have just scored a second goal, which is absolutely brilliant. So get in. But yeah, so we weren't excited, but we're trying to be level-headed. We're trying to talk about the fact that, things could change and could settle down. But we went 8 games without a win. And that's why we started to question, well, we had something, we had an opportunity to build. And then we had the loss at Swansea, draw at Norwich, lost at Derby, lost at Stoke, lost at Cardiff, lost at Portsmouth. Just listen to those teams and where they are in the league. That's
exactly
it's
that.
not just It wasn't just the results, it's who we're playing and how we were performing. The performances were absolutely terrible. We were playing terrible opposition, and we had players coming back from injury. So you can understand as fans why we're now starting to think, well, hang on, we've had all these problems above us, in the board, in the boardroom and the owners. And we, like you said, we've pushed it to one side because the team's been playing well and we've had these opportunities. And yes, we haven't been spending money, but, these are our players and we love them. And now we're like, okay, well, the players that we love, they don't seem to be happy. And the way that we're playing, it seems to be a little bit strange compared to, it should be horses for courses right now because we're really going away. And then they're talking about the fact, well, we're not bothered about playoffs. The season's gone. Let's talk about next year and we're rebuilding. And you start thinking, hang on, we had something good here. And I remember that Sheffield Wednesday game. We spoke about, the fact that we got that result at the end. We got that draw. And I said that if we'd got nothing out of that game, that could have really killed the players. But the fact that we just got something after they huffed and they puffed, they finally got something out of it and they got that equaliser, and it could have even been a win. You could tell that meant a lot to them. And then bang, suddenly we're just on a run of form again. And for me, I think that equaliser against Sheffield Wednesday was the key for their confidence, because Ewood then was rocking a bit more. We'd managed to get something out of a game after showing some effort, and then obviously we go to Luton, and we it just starts from there.
Yeah, and I think context is important. Yeah, you can point to Sunderland and say, well, they've nothing to play. Well, nothing to play for in some senses. But Millwall, lots to play for. Luton, to be fair, I couldn't believe the performance they put in. They looked like they had nothing to play for. And Watford, all right. You know, Watford is what Watford is. But I think something has clicked again. Whether that's the players' individual motivation, whether I don't know, if I'm being honest, what it is. I do think the fact that we've lost key players and they weren't back in form. So we had Travis and Tronstad back. Remember our conversation just as Ishmael was coming through the door, and we were saying he's coming at a great time because we're in the playoffs. We've turned the form back around and we're getting players back. But Tronstad came back in the team, didn't he? And he didn't look like Andre Tronstad. He looked like we'd swapped him with, I don't know. And Travis was the same. Carter came in at right back, where he's not done great when he's done that before. Josh Murphy ripped in shreds, then he goes off injured, and you're thinking, bloody hell, what we're going to do here? But now it seems to genuinely be clicking, and whatever the reason, I couldn't really give a hoot right now. But it looks like, on the face of it, as we're speaking now, we're going into the last game of the season, a point behind two teams. Sheffield United can't obviously move in the table. You would imagine, because they'll be petrified about potentially playing us again, that they'll rest everybody. But it doesn't really matter that in some senses. I think sometimes that can be a great thing, because if you're a player coming in and you look at this and you go, oh my God, I've got 3 games here. If I impress today, I could be playing at Wembley. What more motivation do you need? So sometimes that can be a bad thing that they're giving players an opportunity. So I'm not bothered whether you look at their team and they've made 2 changes, 5 changes, 10 changes. I don't really care. It's about us and about whether we've got the ability and the mindset to come and turn up. And then whatever it happens, doesn't it? But I'm getting giddy, and I'm going to allow myself to get giddy because I do think something is happening. I'm not saying it's going to lead to the playoffs. I hope it does. I'm certainly not going to say it's going to lead to promotion, but it's nice to... I feared we were going to have a very long end to the season, a very long summer, and a very bloody miserable time of it. So it's nice that in spite of everything that's going on, you can come to the football game and actually for 90 minutes you can kind of be thinking about football again.
Well, let's leave the Watford game. Have you got any 3-word reactions?
So there was 2. Matt Lawn, Blades trilogy incoming. And Mick Fox has said twists and turns. And then in brackets, not just Dolan.
Well, let's get into this Sheffield United game. So, yes, Leeds are currently beating Bristol 2-0. And we are trying to keep ahead of that while we talk, because that could change a few things. But we still will have an opportunity, even if Bristol do manage to turn that around and get anything out of that game. We still will have an opportunity to get into the playoffs. It isn't all on that game. But it would be nice if Bristol do lose this one, because it's 2 spots up for grabs that is between obviously Bristol, Coventry, Millwall, Rovers and Middlesbrough. So obviously there's quite a lot of connotations that can happen when it comes down to goal difference. You know, we've got an okay goal difference. We've got the +5. Millwall are on 0. Coventry have the +4. Bristol have +7 and Middlesbrough have +10. So goal difference could actually come into it. Normally, we're so far out of it with our goal difference because we just don't score. But you know, we're normally up there with the minus figures, and everyone's on their +15s. But actually, it could work in our favour. So Yes, Bristol have Leeds away at the time of the recording, but then they've got Preston at home, and they'll be fighting for their lives. And Leeds are going to want the title, so Leeds are going to be getting that result today. I just feel it. So, Coventry have Middlesbrough. That's the interesting one because they're playing each other. And Millwall are away at Burnley. Now, they're going to be wanting the title as well. So I can really see, Burnley trying their best, but are they going to be doing things against us? I don't know. So it's interesting. Now, my opinion on the Sheffield United one, I said to you before recording, is that they've obviously just secured third place. Now, I think they are going to rest some players. Now, what's going to be interesting is, do they rest so many that they go in losing a little bit of momentum, because they've obviously disappointed with the fact that, they've not had fantastic form. I think they've had 4 losses in the last 5-6 games, something like that.
But then they've gone and won, haven't they, at weekend? Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously they've solidified that third place. And they might be thinking, do you know what? We fancy our chances 2 legs against Rovers. I'd prefer them to sneak into that 6th position. I don't know, but right now they have nothing to play for, do they?
No, so they've gone to Stoke and they've turned it around a little bit. I mean, it is Stoke, and they are notorious for not turning up unless they're playing us. But yeah, in theory, they've nothing to play for. But like I said before, I think when you are a footballer and you've got a chance at playing at Wembley and they're 3 games away from that, that'd be enough motivation for me. So I think whether they rest people or not, I do think it's a little bit irrelevant. I think they could, it's all about mindset. They could go into this with a full strength team who could be thinking, I don't want to get injured, is the other side of it. If you're a player and this is a nothing game and there's a 50-50 challenge, are you flying into that? I don't know. It's got to be crossing your mind, hasn't it? So I just think that it could work in their favour if they rest a few, but you never quite know what you're going to get. The last game of the season, and the championship's mental anyway, but the last game of the season throws stuff up. I mean, Preston have sleepwalked into where they are. Is it 3 points off relegation? But they have really sleepwalked into that. So for those people who aren't across it, if we draw, then we, because of our goal difference, which has just never happened before, we, in theory, could get into the playoffs, but we can't, because that would mean that Coventry would have to lose, and they're playing Middlesbrough, and Middlesbrough will then be above us. So we have to go win, and that makes it quite simple. So we have to turn up, we have to get 3 points. I think then you look at it, and we've got Burnley and Millwall. Yeah, some sections of their support might be thinking, not that bothered about Leeds winning the title. However, we do know, Mike, that Burnley think that the championship title is a very important thing. They still sing about it. So clearly it must be the most important thing in the world, winning the championship title. To me, I wouldn't give a hoot if I finished first or second. Actually, I'd rather go up in the playoffs. But to them, the fact they still sing about it, it must be really, really important. So we know they're going to go all out for that. And to be fair, jesting aside, the players are going to want to win that, aren't they? Trafford's got a record that I think he's going for of most boring keeper in the world. Coventry away at Borough. At home to Borough. Coventry really gone off the boil. Borough, you never know what you're going to get with them at the best of times, but seem to have just come back into a little bit of form. And then really the only other one we care about is us. Away at Sheffield United, you looked at that first game of the season, and before the fixtures got announced, and you thought, "Oh, what a bloody last game that is." I mean, at the time, I was probably thinking more along the lines of, "If we need to win there to stay up," but yeah, they've kind of fallen in our favour, I think, a little bit. But we've got 2 spots up for grabs, and
why not us? Why not?
Can we go? Can we go and get 3 points? Yeah, of course we can.
Yeah, and we know we need to go and win, but I think out of most of the teams there, we are obviously the form side right now, which is crazy to say because how the hell we're a form side, I don't know, but I'll take it. But the lads should be playing with no pressure. You know, they're going away to a difficult place. We'd written off the season. As fans, we don't put them under pressure to get into the playoffs. We just want them to try their best and you know do what's right on the pitch. If we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. As long as they've made the effort, and that's what they're doing right now. I think there's gonna be times across the day where we're gonna be. I think that we're going to get ourselves really excited. I think it's going to be, as it stands, I think we're going to be in the playoffs for quite a bit of it. I just hope I just hope that come the final whistle, we're there. The scary thing is what happens then, because say we make it, it's uncharted territory, isn't it? It's like, what do we do?
Well, my experiences of last games of the season with something massive to play for, I went to Brentford, where there was about 4 or 5 teams from memory that every single result needed to go against us for us to get relegated. If we won, we went, I think it was 1-2-0 up early on, and we were well safe. And then everything, it was like a house of cards when it all fell in. And went to Leicester, and it was kind of the opposite. It was five teams or whatever that were in it, and they all needed to go against us for us to go down. But realistically, you thought, well, that's not all going to happen. Yeah, we need to, winning would be ideal, but even if we draw, we'll be all right. And then every single result around us is caving in. And fortunately, we had Sammy Smodics. So I've had both experiences in terms of playoffs. I remember the 92 playoffs at home. I remember Mike Newell coming back from injury and playing Derby. And I remember being 2-0 down and thinking, well, that's that done. But yeah, it's been such a long time. And we've been the kneeling man, haven't we, for so long? So I go back to what I said before. I think if you were looking at this as a neutral, I would be looking at Blackburn Rovers now and saying, between them and Bristol City, they're the form sides here. And actually, when you're a team like Sunderland in particular, you can't just turn it on and off. They're not good enough to do that, and they've massively gone off the boil. If we finish 5th, we'll play Sunderland. If we finish 6th, we'll play Sheffield United. That's set in stone. Now, Sheffield United, I think, have been a better team than us this season. I think they've been a better team than us every time I've seen them. But we've beaten them at home before, haven't we? They look good at Ewood this year, but a couple of years ago when we needed to, we beat them at home. Harry Pickering scored the only goal of the game. But I haven't had great memories at Bramhall Lane. I think, I remember an FA Cup semi-final, I think it was. We lost. Obviously, I remember the FA Cup 5th round quarter-final, whatever it was. More recently that we've lost. Not a great experiences at Bramhall Lane, really. So it'd be nice to get that one out of the way. And if we're going to get into the playoffs and play them, we're going to have to get that one out of the way. So, yeah.
Well, my dream scenario is to finish 5th and play Sunderland. I feel like they're the ones that we would have the best chance against, because I just feel like Sheffield United have far too much quality. And Sunderland, with all due respect, are probably the closest to our ability. And, we beat them recently. They're not the most form side. It is a case of, any given Sunday, you can go your way. And they're the ones that I would probably want to meet the most right now. But I just want us to be in with a shout, and get into the playoffs for the first time. When was the last time we was in the playoffs? Was it when we got promoted to Premier League? The first time?
91-92 season.
Yeah, I went to that. The old Wembley. Yeah. I'll have to to see do it again this year when we get to the final. But there's a lot of fans on social media. They ruin the missed points. They're talking about dropped points on the Cardiff game and so on and so forth. And everyone can be like that. We every team right now can point at that. I mean, look at the form that we've shown to get where we are. We shouldn't be anywhere near these playoffs. You know,
No.
it's a mix between us putting some form together and everyone else absolutely, you know, cacking it and giving us that opportunity. But I'm kind of torn on whether if we make the playoffs, do I think we can get, you know, all the way? And you're saying that you're giddy and you're getting excited. It's so hard to even imagine that we could even make it to the playoff final. It's so strange to think after the season that we've had, there's been so up and down, having the transfer window that we had where we come away and we're so disappointed. We're bringing in some free transfers and some loan players that we're just not excited about. We lose our manager. And yet there's a chance that we could be going to Wembley. It's so strange to think about.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, I mean, can I see us getting there? Yeah, I can. I think Bristol City are the form team. They're the ones to worry about, although Coventry, we just can never beat, can we? I agree with you. I think Sheffield United have got the most quality out of all those teams. But they're not in great form, are they? And form is what you want at this time of the season. You know, we've seen the difference in our players in terms of their confidence and their form now compared to a few weeks ago. Night and day. All of a sudden, that Campbell goal was the perfect example of that. That goal, none of that elements of that would have gone right a couple of weeks ago. They'd have made the wrong decision. They'd have taken a touch too many. The Ohashi's pass would have bobbled up. It would have.
It's amazing what confidence and swagger does to a player in a team.
Yeah, and I think when you do get into the playoffs, it's about mentality, and it's the team that can play the closest to what they know they can. Do our players handle pressure very well? Yeah, I go back to the West Brom game. There was no more pressure than that game. The game when they really stood up. I think they were mentally drained at Derby, and I think that had a real impact on them. I think they were struggling emotionally, if I'm being honest, with where everything was going. But I don't question this team's mentality, and that's why I am a little bit giddy, because I think there's momentum, and I think we've got. You look back to the games earlier on in the season where we talked about this is a different Blackburn. This is a team that can grind results. This is a team that can do the other side of it. And we did that away at Sunderland the other week. I know Sunderland were poor, but we managed to change what we were doing and became, Luton were whinging about our players' antics. I mean, come on. Yeah.
No, it's at a point of the season now where you've got players now thinking about futures and trying to either get contracts elsewhere like your Dolans, or trying to earn contracts at the current club like your Danny Barts, and everyone just seems to have stepped up. And I've got a question for you. Do you think Ishmael has had something to do with it, or do you think the players have just rallied and got themselves back to where they are?
I think he must have done, because if the players were just going to rally, they'd have carried on doing that after the West Brom game, or they would have rallied after the Derby game or one of the subsequent games. They would have pulled themselves in and gone, do you know what, let's sort this. I think he has... I think he changed the way they were playing a little bit against Sheffield United in the second half. And I think they've bought into it a little bit more since then. Yeah. Combined with it, I do think the returning players have made a massive impact. We couldn't get up the pitch quick enough before. We really couldn't. And Hashi's come into the team since then. Britton's come into the team since then. Travis and Tronstad have swapped their impersonators out for the actual Travis and Tronstad. And it's made a massive difference. Yeah, what about you?
I think there's an element of it. I think that he's a very different person to Eustace. We've said it before.
Yeah.
And I think players just need to get used to that different style, that different management, and maybe react that little bit differently. I think that maybe there was a lot more going on with the fact that obviously Eustace left, and a lot of the players seemed upset about it and what was going on. And I think they kind of started to feel like the season was over themselves. So maybe as much as I was there saying, well, Ishmael's coming into a good situation, the fact that we're in the playoffs, he's got players coming back, maybe it was actually quite a bad situation because they had this guy leaving that was kind of a father figure to a few of them that they all seem to love. And then he's like the stepdad coming in and trying to fight for the love of the kids. And maybe it was something like that. And maybe he needed that opportunity just to get them on side, really, with his way of thinking. Like you said, having the likes of Gay swapped out for Ohashi has worked out quite well. And having Britain come back and firing on all cylinders, we know what he can do. So I think there's an element of a few things that he's done that has been very positive. But, is it 3-0 now? There we go. So, yeah, Bristol are definitely
goal difference.
Staying
goal difference.
That's bringing it down. I like that. I do like that. So yeah. So I do think that Ishmael's had something to do with it, and I'm gonna be one of the people saying. I mean, I don't think that we were too harsh on him. I'll have to go back and listen to our podcast. I don't really tend to listen to him, to be honest. But I don't think we were that harsh, were we?
No, we weren't, and we were calling it how it was. Let's be honest, we played 4 teams in a row pretty much who are in the bottom 4. Now, they're all on dreadful runs. They're performing poorly. So, yes, we can't get up the pitch, but you still have to find a better way than what we were doing. We weren't putting up much of a fight, and that was what my issue was. And I think the disconnect was with him and the players. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we've used that phrase before. It was like a stepdad. I think when a manager comes into a club ordinarily, something's gone wrong. So the players are kind of ready for a change. They're ready for... They can't really turn around usually and go, well, hold on. The other way was really working. Why are we changing it? Whereas he was walking into players reluctant to change. I'm not saying they were doing this deliberately, but they would have been reluctant to change. He kind of made an error, though, because he talked about next season and about how I need to change the players quite quickly. So that's not going to help that cause. But then I also think it went deeper than that. I think the players were probably thinking, just like we were, if John Eustace feels that Derby are a better option, then what the hell is going on at this club? What direction are we in? What is the point? And maybe I need to look a way out. I think it was far deeper than just at an Ishmael level. But then he's coming in and saying, listen, lads, we need to start doing this. And next season we're going to... And they're thinking, well, we didn't because we were in the playoffs until your ideas started rocking up. The whole thing will have come together. And I think they felt sorry for themselves. I don't think it was deliberate, but I think they just got in this real rut of, let's just end the season. This is... we've absolutely ruined it. It's all a big mess. What a shame. How unfortunate are we? And now, actually, that did work after Sheffield Wednesday. And then it's rolled into the next and into the next. And actually now they're just flying, aren't they? They're flying of confidence. And Dolan, I couldn't be happier for him because he was the one I called during that really poor run and said, and you yourself had said you felt sometimes maybe it was because the other players were struggling and actually wanted somebody to take chances and wanted somebody to take that ownership. And if he gave the ball away, it wasn't like a great move was falling down, which had happened before. But I just think he's played himself into form. His determination and his will, and he showed. I use the word bravery, and I go back to that. He showed more bravery. There's different types of bravery. There's flying into a tackle, and then there's wanting the ball when nobody wants it, wanting the ball when things aren't working. And he showed more bravery than anybody has this season. And I think Travis has been amazing in terms of that. But I think Tyrese Dolan showed a real inner strength and a determination and leadership that should be applauded. So I'm absolutely delighted that his performances are now following that. He's played himself into form.
100%, because I think he's been massively important. And going back to that list of players that I'd made with Toth, Dolan, Cantwell, Britton, and Tronstad, they've been the most consistent performance we've had in these run of form and with this recent run of form. And something has clicked with them. It could be an Ishmael thing, I don't know, or it is themselves that have sorted it. But Dolan's definitely one where I was calling out his lack of football intelligence. He had all the skill, he had some quickness about him. Whilst he isn't necessarily pacey, he's quite quick with his with the ball, with his thinking. But he was doing a lot of silly things with it, and maybe Ishmael sat him down and just showed him these things and just said, "What's your thought process here? What are you seeing here? Why are you doing that? Why not do this?" I don't know. But it's worked. Whatever's happened, it's worked. I thought Campbell has stepped up and started to show some of his qualities as well. But I think that's because others have stepped up around him to allow him to be that luxury player. It's not like he's taking the game by the scruff of the neck. It's that others have allowed him to have that freedom, and that is the likes of Ohashi, Travis, and Tronstad as well. You know, being in that centre position. I wanted to talk a little bit about Toth. We've had quite a few people asking us, about Toth. Now, when I've watched him, he's not doing anything in particular that I'm looking at and thinking, that's an amazing goalkeeper. He's just doing everything right. He's just doing the things he needs to do, and he's not making mistakes. He's not looking shaky. There's been a couple of times he's come out and he's punched a couple, but that's modern goalkeeping. They don't tend to try and catch it as much anymore. In fact, when you see a goalkeeper catch it, you're actually wowed now when they just catch the ball. But he's looked comfortable with his feet. He's quite happy to go into the second level if he needs to, even just hoofing it long when he needs to. But what I've seen the most is people trusting him. He seems to be trusted more. So when the ball's coming back towards him, you see defenders actually guiding it back. So they know he's going to come and claim it at their feet. So rather than, shielding the defender off to let him come out, when they've got the ball at the back, they're more than happy to pass it to him. So for me, there's a lot of trust there, and that's big. So there's obviously something happening on the training ground where they just know to trust this guy, because he hasn't had a lot of games. So it's not like in the games he's done anything in particular where they go, oh, wow, this guy's next level. There's obviously something happening in the training ground where they're looking at him and thinking, I can trust this guy with his feet. So for me, it's just the package. I don't think he's doing anything particularly amazing. It's not like I'm looking at him thinking, oh, my God, he's going to be the next Brad Friedel. I just think that right now, he's solid and he's doing everything he should do. Yeah,
I think he came in as number one. Really, you don't spend money on a keeper like we did. That I think his reported fee could go higher than what we paid for Kaminski. So they've done loads of research around him, and I think they've done that to bring him in as a number one, really. But Pears has not given them a reason to drop him. Pears, for me, we've talked about Pears hundreds of times, and I stand by the fact that I think his average is a 6 or a 7. He very, very rarely gets above that, but a few times goes below it. Toth came in against Borough, was it his first game? And immediately, I think you're saying there, spot on. You can go off what you see, but actually, we've not seen loads from him. What you're going off is how the other players are around him. And immediately in that Borough game, he had trust in himself. They had trust in him. They were letting the ball come back to him. They were passing the ball back to him in tricky areas. So he's obviously shown them in training. Yeah, they're pretty comfortable with him. He goes into this run of games and he's had some clean sheets. Can't be a coincidence. The save at Luton was an unbelievable save, but generally speaking, he's done what I like a goalkeeper to do, and that's I've never once thought, oh my God, the ball's going back to him. I've never felt worried. He's just very steady. He does everything he should do, a bit like Kaminski used to. I used to say Kaminski, Raya used to pull out a save and you think, how's he done that? But would make the odd error because he was young. Kaminski never really made those saves, but never really made an error. Toth seems to be a similar mould right now. He seems to be very much a 7, 8 out of 10. He'll save the ones he should save. All right, the Luton one, there was no way he had any right to save that. But I don't think he's going to pull loads of free dual saves out, like you said. But right now, touch wood, I don't think he's going to make absolute gaffes like Pears did. I think we found ourselves a steady goalkeeper, and I'm all right with that.
Well, what's interesting is he's started the last 4 games, which just happens to be 4 wins. So Ishmael seems like the kind of guy that doesn't really like rotating around if he doesn't have to. So he does look like this could be the making of a goalkeeper that's going to be our number 1 next year. We'll obviously break that down a little bit more come the end of the season. But as we're coming to the end of this podcast, what players do you think are going to be the ones that are going to be massively important come next week? Which if you could pick 3 players that are our most important for next week, who are they?
I'm going to say Toth because it's another big test that he's not yet had. Not seeing him in such a high-pressure game. You know, as you will know far better than me, Mark, if you make a mistake as a goalkeeper, it can cost you the game. This could cost us a place in the playoffs. So I'm going to have to say him. I think Britain's getting us up the pitch is so important. And I'm going to say Cantwell. I think if we are going to get a chance in this game, we're going to have to take it. And I trust him, not necessarily to take it, but to pick the right pass at the right time. So I don't know who will be on the end of that pass because I've nobody to my heart on. I've no Andy Vyman. But I think, the creativity of Cantwell could well be what unlocks it for us. What about you?
So I had Toth and Britain, same reasons.
Yeah.
I think Toth's going to be busier this game. Britain's my boy. He's my. I'm not going to say he's my new Ryan Hedges, but he's my boy. And I'm going to say Dolan. I think Dolan's showing some form. I think he's showing his qualities. I think he's riding high. You see, just look at his face on social media, on the Rovers social media of everything. He just seems delighted to be playing football right now. He seems to love putting on that Rovers shirt. Whether it's going to be his last time, I don't know. But I think he's going to want to, whatever happens, he's going to want to finish that game knowing that he gave absolutely everything. So I hope he doesn't try too much. I hope he just does what he's done the last few games. But for me, it's Dolan. Cantwell was on my list. But I just want us in this game to go for it. I don't want us to try mind games. I don't want us to try being too tentative. I want us to think, do you know what? I'd prefer to just go for it and lose 5-4 than lose 1-0 because we've tried to play a tentative game.
Yeah, I think you've got to go out on your shield, haven't you? If you come away from this game going, if we'd have gone for it, if we'd have done this, that's not what you want. You need to go for it. You need to try and seize the game, seize the opportunity. I think it's a massive game for Toth, as we'd said, because he's had different games so far. Luton's a small ground. It's bumpy. It's hard. He's had Watford. He's had Millwall, where we have more possession, so there's more time with the ball at his feet. Leeds are 4-0 up. Tremendous. And he's also got a game here where there's the pressure that we talked about, but he will have an absolute aerial bombardment. Sheffield United try and bully teams, don't they? So he's going to have long throws coming in. He's going to have a corners on his head. So we'll find out an awful lot about Balak's Toth as well. But I am excited. I am obviously going. I've got my balloons ready. I've got my face paint ready. I've got my my tissues ready in case we lose. And we'll see.
It should be good. And people put comments down below what are your key players for this game? What would you like to see? Do you want us to go for it? Do you want us to just shut up shop and try and nick a goal? Where do you think we're going to finish? But one last question I've got for you, Mark, and I've got for the listeners to put their comments down below. No matter what happens next week, has it been a good season for Rovers?
Yeah. Yeah.
The way I see it, I would have taken this at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And as much as we can talk about missed opportunities, poor transfer windows, managers leaving, owners not being, absent owners and all of this, I would have taken this at the start of the season. So whatever happens, I'm going to put this down as a good season. But listeners down below, put your comments down, things we've spoken about. But that's the question I really want to ask. Has it been a good season? But Mark, are we going to be talking positively on Monday about us being in the playoffs? Come on, Mark. You're the voice of positivity.
I'm going to say Rovers will start the game off like a house on fire. Sheffield United will still be thinking of the greasy chip butties. We will go 2-0 up and we'll be anxiously looking at our phones. The Coventry game will be the one that's all over the place. And then I think that the Dingles will batter Millwall, so we can rule them out early on. And then Preston will go and get something at Bristol City. And those 4 Leeds goals will be the difference for our goal difference. Yes. And we will be in the playoffs.
I agree. I think my prediction today, and I don't know why I came out with it, I think it's us and Middlesbrough going into the playoffs. I think Bristol are going to absolutely brick it. I think Borough are going to really get something at Coventry, and I think Millwall are going to get battered. But let's wait and see. What
that would have us 5th, wouldn't it?
Yes. I think we're going to get Sunderland.
Well, I hope not, because
none of this is going to happen. But I'd like to think it's
it is, obviously. That's a problem because one of the legs will be midweek, and that's Sunderland's not as easy to get to as. Well, I suppose Sheffield is not much further, is it? Yeah, it's fine. We're going. If anyone's watching from my workplace, by the way, it is a genuine illness that's come over me in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. You're looking a bit peaky, to be honest.
I'm feeling it. Yeah.
But to be honest, I'm not even sure mathematically that can actually happen, can it?
You can, yeah. Middlesbrough finished 67. We finished 68. Yeah, of course it can.
Yeah, exactly.
And Borough have got +10, and Bristol City have got, I don't know, -100 after tonight. So, yeah.
Quick prediction, who do you think is going to go down with, because Plymouth are basically gone, aren't they?
Yeah, Plymouth have gone, haven't they, goal difference-wise.
So Cardiff, Plymouth, who's going with them?
Let's have a quick look. Who's playing who? Go on, I'll let you say yours while I have a look at the fixtures.
I'd like to say Derby, and that's not a Eustace thing. That's because I know some Derby fans I don't like. So, Derby. Okay.
Hull were at Portsmouth, aren't they, last game? Hull. That's it for me. Yeah, I think Portsmouth will do them.
There we go. But everyone put their predictions down below.
Just very, very quickly on that Hull one last year. How many people were saying they would have swapped places with Hull last year? All the positivity around them, all the stuff they were doing for the fans. And we said, if they don't go up, they're in a world of trouble because they spent a fortune last year. And I'm not sticking up. This is not about owners, about transfer policies. But boom or bust just doesn't work, does it? Unless QPR did it that once. But it isn't a long-term thing. But yeah, I think Hull. So I'm going. I think I like yours. Rovers and Middlesbrough, and then Hull. Yeah, Leeds to win the league.
There we go. I'll take that. Well, hopefully next week, Mark, we've got a match to preview and we're not just doing a season review. So, Mark, have a great weekend.
Oh, I will. I'll be honest, Mike. It's bank holiday, and if we win at Sheffield, we've got a street party here on the Saturday. I might look like Freddie Flintoff coming out of number 10 Downing Street on Monday. I'll have my sunglasses on. It'll be done.
Good lad. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Mark. And like I said to the fans, be positive. Let's support the lads. We've got one more to go. And hopefully next week we're talking about a nice little playoff run. But until then, make sure you like, subscribe, do all the good stuff, comment down below, and we'll see you next time.